just basic terminology. We've talked about supply and demand, types of competition, types of businesses. And now we're going to talk about how to really make your business work, like make it super productive and make it profitable, and protections that allow that to happen from the government. So, all right, we're going to start with increasing productivity. And there are 4 ways to increase productivity. You can increase the education and training of the employees. You can add technology, divide up the labor, and have people specialize. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's say that you are in the kitchen and you're cooking and you've just started this business, this catering business. All right. If you want to be more productive and have better quality food, it would be a good idea for your employees, whoever's cooking, the chefs, the wait staff, to have training so that there is a system in place, they know what the system is, and that way everyone is working together well. It also would be beneficial for your lead chef to have some background and training and education. You don't want to just pick someone off the street and say, hey, you are going to be the head chef of our catering company. You want to have someone who's going to come in there and actually has had a background in cooking for large groups of people, and that would help you to be more productive. With that, technology is going to help increase your productivity. Technology can be something as simple as scissors or something as complex as like a machine, an assembly line for a machine in a manufacturing setting. Okay, so in this example of a catering company, your technology could be ovens. Maybe you only have one oven. Well, it would probably be beneficial and more productive for you, and you would be able to get more done if you had multiple ovens, multiple stoves, large, like commercial size stoves, so that you can produce more simultaneously. So you can have several pieces of technology running at the same time, and that way you would increase your output in the same amount of time. All right, dividing the labor. Just like you wouldn't have one person cook the green beans and lay them out in a way that would be pretty for the catering company and then serve just the green beans. You probably would want to have like someone in the back cooking, someone in the back laying out the food in a nice manner, someone who is serving as a wait staff. You want like to divide up your labor so that one person is cooking all the things, or you could have a group, a team of people cooking all the things, a team of people who are setting the plates, a team of people who are serving. And when you divide up the labor, things get more productive typically. You would also want to have specialization, which kind of comes naturally with dividing labor and dividing up the tasks, because if you have one team of people who are cooking, that team of people is going to be specializing in cooking. Same thing as if you were teaching, okay? We see this in a school setting. Oftentimes you had one person who teaches social studies, one person who teaches math, one person who teaches a language. So when you have that happen, people become special. What they're doing is their specialty, and that way they become more productive, more skilled at it, and you have a better output. So these are 4 ways to increase productivity, and it's pretty set. These are the 4 ways. You can educate and train your employees. You can increase or add technology. You can divide up the labor, and that leads to specialization. Now, I had this long conversation with a student one time who was determined, no, Miss Morgan, if you add employees, you'll increase productivity. And while that might be true up to an extent, generally speaking, it's not always true. If you've heard the phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen, this explains that. Okay, so just adding more people doesn't necessarily increase productivity. I want you to think about your kitchen right now in your home. Okay, if you have 5 people in there cooking, it might be okay. Or it might be that 5 people in my kitchen would be too many. But if you add 6, 7, 8, 9, adding more people, let's say you have 50 people in the kitchen, that's not going to make it more productive. In fact, that's going to become a hindrance to productivity. People will be getting in each other's way. There won't be enough for each person to do, and everyone's just kind of standing around making a mess. So there is like a margin of return of how much you get per employee added. So just because you add people to your business does not mean it will be more productive. Generally speaking, you'll hit a point where that is no longer productive. In fact, it's counterproductive. So keep that in mind, that just adding people to the business does not necessarily increase productivity, especially if those people are not trained or educated or specializing in whatever task they're doing. All right, so if you want your business to be productive, consider these 4 ways to increase productivity. Another thing to talk about is incentives. So when you are talking about employees and you want them to do a good job, or if the business is looking for a certain kind, or the government, is looking for a certain kind of business or product to really take hold in a country, then they might provide incentives. So incentives generally come in the form of money. So let's talk about employee incentives. If you want your employees to do a really great job and you're encouraging them to work harder or take on extra training or whatever, then ways that you might get them to do that is through money. You can share your profits with them. So like say at the end of the month, you take your profits and you divvy out some of them to your employees as kind of like a bonus. Obviously, their paycheck is an incentive. Some companies even give you stock. So for example, I don't know if this is still the case, but a long time ago at Procter & Gamble, you could, if you bought your stock, then the company would match it. They would also buy stock for you up to a certain amount. So buying stock in a company, which is like an investment, is another way to give your employees incentives. You could also give them a promotion if they're doing a really great job. Promote them to head chef or promote them to the next level up in the hierarchy of the company. Now, as far as business incentives, I kind of hinted to this a minute ago when I was talking about the government. They're really targeting a certain product or service that they'd like to see expand in the country. They might give certain incentives to businesses to encourage them to do that. That could be things like tax credits or tax breaks or grants even. Back when the coronavirus first came out and we saw lots of shutdowns, there were lots of small business incentives to keep businesses open. The government had a desire to keep businesses open despite the fact that everything was shut down so that people could be employed, right? When businesses shut down, then the employees are no longer receiving a paycheck. So there was benefit to keeping businesses open so that employees could still get paid. And that way people had money to pay their bills and such during the shutdowns. So it might be grants from the businesses or from the government rather. Or on the flip side of that, a negative or a punitive incentive, which would be like punishing you for something or trying to discourage you from doing something. Could be like a fine or a fee. If you emit X amount of, greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, then we're going to fine you for that, or you're going to have to be charged a fee. Okay, so punitive incentives, that's like a punishment. It's not much of an incentive. It's an incentive to not do something, but a way to punish people if there's something you'd like to discourage them from doing is, like I said, either docking their pay or charging them a fine or a fee. So these are just incentives. All of these, as I've mentioned, have to do with money. So consider that when you're looking at your business. Consider, will I have money to either give incentives, or will I have to charge people, charge my employees who do things I don't need them to do? All right. Now, the government, remember we have a mixed economy in the United States, which means the government does step in and help make some of the decisions or help guide the decisions. And so there are some government protections for your business. First of all, in the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, there is this clause called eminent domain, and that means that the government would have to pay you if they were to take your property for things like building roads or something for the public good. So the government is allowed to confiscate your property, but they have to pay you just compensation for whatever that is. And so that applies to your business as well. If your business is where a future highway is going and the government is going to need part of your land, they are going to have to justly compensate you for how much that is worth in that moment and how much that provides for your business in the future. That typically will keep the government off of your business property because they're going to have to pay you for it. They can't just take it away. Now, intellectual property, you've heard a lot about this. Oftentimes, as a student, saying, do not plagiarize, do not copy and paste, do not cheat. Okay, but as a business owner, you'll be glad to know that your ideas and your intellectual property is protected by the government. So there are several ways to do this. There's trademarks, copyright laws, patent laws, and basically the difference between that, make sure you write this down in your notes. A trademark is going to protect your brand. So trademark, you're going to have a trademark for like a logo or for your business name or product name, perhaps, or maybe a slogan for your business, like the snack that smiles back, Goldfish. Or, if you think of the golden arches for McDonald's, that's going to be trademarked. So logos, slogans, your name, like Coca-Cola, any of that will be trademark. You can have trademarks so that other businesses don't steal that idea from you and use it as their own, which could in turn hurt your business. Copyright laws is protecting your intellectual property, things like song lyrics, novels, books that are written, information on a website that you've produced yourself that is your own work. We do not want to violate copyright. That's why oftentimes when you're plagiarizing, you're violating copyright. You have copyright infringement. So that's another way to protect your work if you're writing, like, say, a novel or song lyrics. It's the same reason why you cannot just take a song from a singer and put it on YouTube as your own, because you are causing the company that or the artist that wrote the song to lose money. So that's copyright infringement. And that stinks, right, for us. But if you're the business owner, that's a really great protection, because otherwise you could lose money when other people are distributing and selling and reproducing your work and you're not getting credit for it. So copyright protection is a really big thing for business owners. And then last but not least, patent laws. Patent laws are going to protect things like technical creations or inventions that either like the how to make something, the actual product, if it's different than anything else, so that other companies can't come in and make the same exact idea or the same exact process and then sell it and market it as their own and repackage it and rebrand it. And then you have a competitor. It would help you, or they'd have to pay you, compensate you for that so that you're still getting credit for their product too. So those are some government protections. Creative Commons, I wanted to throw in here. That is a way for you to share your intellectual property freely. So maybe you have a picture that you've designed or a picture that you've photographed or work that you have created, and you want to be able to share that with other people. You would license that as Creative Commons, meaning anyone else can use it freely. You can add stipulations saying you can use it freely, period. Have at it. Or you could say, you can use it, but you have to give me credit. Or you can use it, but it must be modified a little bit, and you give me credit. So you can add stipulations to whatever license that you're going to give out.